my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
Breaking news.
Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator from South Carolina, he's been the Republican senator there since he won the election in 2002, took the oath of office in 2003. He has died suddenly and unexpectedly at the age of 71. Now, according to his office, they are saying that he died from a brief and sudden illness. Again, according to the Washington Post, to give you an idea of how brief and sudden it was, emergency crews showed up to a call at his home on Capitol Hill around 8:30 p.m. last night. The call was for someone suffering from chest pains. They immediately started doing CPR, and obviously he was later pronounced dead. Now, President Trump has made a statement on his Truth Social account saying, quote, Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the greatest people and senators I've ever known, is dead. He was always working and was a true American patriot. Also, at the end of that notice, President Trump said details and arrangements to follow, and added the term, so sad. Now, I want you to keep it here for all the angles on this story, because there's going to be a lot of people reporting on this, and I want to make sure you get all of the angles on the story. First of all, again, sudden, unexpected illness. We don't know the cause, and that is going to be a focus for certainly the next day or two to try to figure out exactly what the cause of death was and whether or not there was any other indications of there being a problem here. But there is also a major political situation here, the ramifications of which I want to make sure you know all the details of to make this very, very clear. Now, Graham was actually up for re-election this year. He had recently won the Republican primary. He was favored to win another term to the Senate. But I have to say, if you take a look at all the recent polls, he did not have a huge lead, although it was considered to be a safe seat. He was running against a Democrat, relatively new person in politics, a physician named Annie Andrews. And in the latest polls that just came out from Impact Research, or I should say actually came out just a couple weeks ago, Graham was only up by 3 points. So here's what the situation is now in South Carolina. Remember, we have now, with Graham's death, a split in the Senate of 52 Republicans and 47 Democrats. Governor Henry McMaster, who is a Republican, will now appoint someone to fill Graham's seat. That will be until January 3rd of this year. But because this is an election year, there will have to be a special primary challenge, a new primary, and that is expected to happen by August 11th. So we have less than a month now. It is July 12th today. Less than a month now to choose that replacement for Lindsey Graham on the Republican slate in South Carolina. Whether McMaster will choose someone whom he hopes will also run as a Republican nominee and maybe basically crowd out a potential ugly primary, we don't know. But it's hard to continue to call South Carolina a safe seat for the Republicans, although it's a safe state for Republicans, considering that this Annie Andrews is only 3 points behind Lindsey Graham in the latest poll. We'll have to see where that works. All right, now here's another aspect of this story that probably deserves a little bit more attention and will get more attention. Again, Lindsey Graham, as many of you know, had a lot of enemies. He was a major, major supporter of U.S. military action overseas. He was a huge opponent of the Iranian regime, calling for much more U.S. military activity against the Iranian regime. He was also a huge supporter of Ukraine in its war with Russia, and had just come back from Kiev and a meeting with Vladimir Zelensky. I want you to listen to Lindsey Graham just 2 days ago speaking after that meeting and see if you can pick up any sign of any kind of illness here, because I don't. Listen.
I'm pleased to announce, as of about 30 minutes ago, we've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support.
So, again, that's just 2 days ago. Again, this is a story developing for many, many reasons. And just, again, want to make sure you know about all the things that are mostly on the front burner right now. Of course, the first question is, what exactly was the cause of death for Senator Graham? Could be anything from just a natural situation, but also because of the many enemies he had. There will be people questioning his movements, especially when he was just in Ukraine. And again, he also was a huge, huge opponent of the Iranian regime, which has been very much boasting about how it likes to assassinate or try to assassinate U.S. officials, most notably President Trump, just a couple of days ago at massive protests where people held up signs threatening the life of President Trump. So, again, that is on the first part of it. And then there's also this political situation as far as who's going to fill the seat in South Carolina. Once again, by August 11th, they have to have another primary now to replace Graham on the Republican slate. He was up for re-election this year in these 2026 primaries and was only leading his Democrat opponent by a few points in the latest polls. Some people still considered it to be a safe seat, but again, now everything will have to be recalibrated. And now the balance of power in the Senate is 52 Republicans to 47 Democrats. But remember, there is another very, very ill U.S. Senator on the Republican side in Mitch McConnell, who is stepping down at the end of this year, but he's still in the Senate now. And of course, there are those 3 Republicans who are very shaky supporters of the Trump agenda or the overall Republican agenda. That would be Susan Collins of Maine, Linda Murkowski in Alaska, and now Tom Tillis in North Carolina, who has bucked the trend in his party as a way to attack President Trump on his way out of the Senate as well. Tillis is leaving the Senate, too. So there you go. That's the situation right now in that breaking story. I want to make sure you get all the details there. Now,